Hey guys, I'm Tom the Tech Chap, and this is the very shiny new Xiaomi Mi 10T Pro. And it costs €600, which is about £550, and for that we're getting some pretty beefy specs, including a ridiculously smooth 144Hz screen, a Snapdragon 865 processor, this triple camera setup with a 108 megapixel main lens, 8K video, a massive 5000 mAh battery, 5G of course, and it doubles as a handy travel mirror. Very nice. So Xiaomi very kindly sent this over about a week ago for me to have a play with and test it, and the first thing you'll notice when you do pick up the Mi 10T Pro is it's a bit of a chunky monkey. I mean, it's 9.3mm thick and 218 grams, but then again we are getting a massive battery in this thing. We also get stereo speakers, which is always good to see. Well, here, at least sound good. We get a dual SIM card tray at the bottom. On the right side, we have the volume rocker and the power button, which actually doubles as a fingerprint reader. Up top, there's an IR blaster, which is a nice extra and you don't see very often these days. And then around the back, we have this lunar silver color. And then finally at the top here, we have this pretty imposing camera setup. But we'll come back to this in a second. The real highlight is that screen though. There's only a handful of phones right now that give us a 144Hz refresh, and those that do are almost all dedicated gaming phones, which then tend to have pretty terrible cameras or other compromises. So it's genuinely good to see a screen like this in a well-balanced phone. The only real compromise with this is the fact that they've gone with an IPS LCD screen rather than OLED or AMOLED, but that's the trade-off they've made in order to get that super smooth 144Hz refresh rate. Can you tell the difference between a 120 and 144Hz screen on a phone? I don't think so. Maybe if it's side by side or if you're a bit of a pro gamer, but for the average person, I don't think so. Plus there's really only a few games that actually support that right now, so I think it's more about having those bragging rights. Although having said that, as developers do start to develop and optimize their games for high refresh rate phones, then it may become more useful in the future. I think if we had the choice though, most of us would probably go with a 120Hz AMOLED screen as opposed to a 144Hz LCD. But then again, it is an IPS LCD, so it's a good quality panel. The only way you can really tell is the viewing angles aren't quite as good. You kind of get a bit of sort of color shift and it goes a bit gray off angle, but how often are you looking at your phone like that anyway? So most of the time, it doesn't really matter. And it is nice that we have the option to switch to P3 and sRGB profiles if you want the best color accuracy. And actually, because it's adaptive refresh, it'll adjust based on what you're doing. I mean, you don't need 144 if you're just browsing the web or watching a video at 30Hz, and so that does help to save battery. But this screen, paired with a Snapdragon 865 and 8 gigs of RAM, while the Mi 10T Pro feels incredibly fast to use. We also get Android 10 out of the box with Xiaomi's MIUI software on top. It's definitely one of the more heavily customized skins, and it's good, but probably not my favorite if I'm being honest. Sometimes it can get a little bit busy, but you do have loads of settings and customization options to play with. As for battery life, well, for me, this is one of the biggest selling points of the phone, and you can easily get 2 full days. I tend to have around 45% of my battery left at the end of a normal day, so perhaps with a tiny bit of rationing you can get 2 full days. And of course that big battery comes in handy if you're going to be playing lots of games. So I jumped into a bit of Armor mobile ops on this for an hour. It's not the best game ever, lots of go faster microtransactions, you know, the usual mobile stuff. Anyway, after an hour, while the top of the phone did get a little toasty, although you wouldn't really feel it if it had a case on, it used 19% of the battery up, so you'll get a good 5 hours of intensive gaming from this. Turning this into an unboxing video very quickly, we also get a 33-watt power adapter in the box, so we get pretty fast charging, although unfortunately this doesn't support any kind of wireless charging. Now let's talk about these cameras, because alongside that fast screen and the big battery, for me this is the other big reason to consider the Mi 10T Pro. So the 108 megapixel camera uses pixel binning to combine multiple pixels into one, so we actually end up with sharper 25 megapixel photos. Although you can choose to shoot in the full resolution if you want, although I must admit I can't really see a great deal of difference. I think overall, when we have good lighting, photos can look great, with good dynamic range evening out the brighter highlights and the darker shadows. Switching to portrait mode, while it was getting a little bit darker at this point, my wife Sarah had to take a bunch just to get a couple that looked good. Well, as good as you can get taking a picture of me. In lower light, I definitely recommend switching to the dedicated night mode though, as the longer exposure seems to make a big difference to how bright and evenly exposed everything is. Alright, well welcome to market day on this slightly grey day here in England. I'm shooting this at 4K 30, although you can actually shoot an 8K if you want to. In fact, let's do that now. This is 4K. and this is 8K. So if you're watching this on an 8K TV, then you can well, watch it back natively, but the first thing you'll notice is you do lose a bit of that stabilization. So I think really you're only going to want to use this if you're staying perfectly still, and then maybe extract some high quality screen grabs from it. But I think most of the time I'd stick with 4K video, and as you can see, it really is quite smooth actually. I can't switch to the ultra wide lens, unfortunately, but I can zoom in, or that's just a digital zoom. So yeah, what do you think? And who's up for some Halloween puzzles and arts and crafts? And finally, around the front, we have a 20 megapixel selfie camera. Say hello, Sarah.
Hello, Sarah.
There you go, perfect. Yeah, it's pretty good actually. I do think it's a bit of a subtle dig at one of their rivals here, as on the side it says Mi 10T Pro with easy access to the Google apps that you use most. Unlike some other brands that perhaps do not have access to Google. But anyway, the Xiaomi Mi 10T Pro, which is a bit of a mouthful to say, is actually a very impressive bit of kit. It's not perfect. I mean, an OLED screen would have been nice to have, and the cameras are good, but not the best out there. But keeping that price in mind of 600 euros, which works out to be about 550 pounds or so, they haven't officially confirmed UK pricing, you are getting a lot for your money. And also the little extras like Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.1 and faster UFS 3.1 storage, all that up just to make this a really good, well-balanced phone. So I'll put links to this in the description below if you want to check it out, but let me know what you make of the Mi 10T Pro. I'll never get tired of saying that in the comments below. Would you be tempted to buy it? And also, do you think 144 Hz is useful or just a bit of, as I say, bragging rights? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, guys. And if you want to see more from me and also help me get to that 1 million subscriber mark, then don't forget to hit that little subscribe button below. And I'll catch you next time right here on the Tech Chap.